Hi, I'm Frank Almendra. I'm the author of the book, The Hemisphere. Well, this one was a crazy one. It came out of nowhere. I was listening to music on a Sunday morning. I was listening to an album from the band, American band Kansas. The album is Monolith. And I was looking at the cover. It has a fantastic art cover and has one of those gatefolds. And I opened the gatefold and I saw all the drawings and I said, I just came with an idea. I have something here. And then it came really fast and it just flew from that. Yeah, I do like them a lot, classics like 1984, Brave New World, or even more modern ones like the trilogy, The Hunger Games. But what the genres that I really like to read most is really, I would say, magic realism and historical fiction. I'm originally from Brazil and I have a huge love for Latin America authors such as Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Jorge Amado, Jorge Luis Borges, Isabel Allende. They definitely have an inspiration on how I think storytelling should flow, especially when it comes to magic realism. It's something that I like to put a little bit of the surreal into the everyday life, and I gather inspiration from those. Well, this one was different. Like I mentioned, I saw that cover of the rock album and it gave me the idea, and then it just came really fast, everything. And from the original concept to the final chapter, I think it took me 2 months. Usually my process is a bit more slower, a bit more layered, but for this one, it came everything really fast, and you gotta take advantage of that. And I just went through. I think another factor that contributes with that a little bit is that this book is more like, I would say, more plot driven. The story is told by different characters at the same time, so there is not a deep dive into the characters itself, and that allowed the story to flow much quicker. And the final results came in 4 months. The whole book was done. Honestly, I didn't plan for the Hemisphere to be part of a series. It was meant to be a standalone story. But by the time I get towards the end, to the final part of the book, I realized that maybe there are so many layers and unanswered questions and characters arcs that could go further. So some readers have already asked me what comes next, and which makes me think maybe there is more to tell, but honestly, I have no idea where that could go. So that will be funny and interesting to explore that opportunity, but I'm open to the possibility. Sometimes, stories have a life on their own. That's a fun question. Well, let's see. Maybe for Captain Grant, maybe I envision someone with the intensity and emotional depth. Maybe that British actor Tom Hardy would be good for that. Now for Troy Merrick, which is more like a rebellious guy, I maybe imagine a young Keanu Reeves when he was doing The Matrix. For Leora Sorrell, that I know for sure has to be like a young Halle Berry. I even used to have a photo of Halle Berry on the computer when I was writing any chapter that has a Leora on it, so to take a look at it and help me drive the storytelling on that part, right? But if not one of those, any cast has to be a good mix of grit and soul, to reflect the story. Well, that mix comes definitely from my love of magical realism authors, those authors that weave the mystical into the everyday life. Even though the Hemisphere is more like a sci-fi dystopian novel, I wanted to feel it grounded in something older and maybe more mysterious. I think there is something powerful when you put soul and spirit next to machines and systems. That duality, that tension between logic and the unknowable, that really inspired me as a writer. Well, I hope the Hemisphere is just the beginning. I'm working on two very different novels right now. One is a young adult, kind of a cyberpunk thriller, and the other one is historical fiction. It's that one I have been working for 8 years. I stopped and I picked it up in the end of last year. And that one is a historical fiction happening in Portugal and in Brazil between 1755 and 1824. So completely different novels that I hope you guys like. My routine is flexible. My day job is a finance manager, so I try to write at night when it's more quiet and peaceful. But sometimes the inspiration strikes me in the middle of the day, in the middle of my work, so I just jot down things really quickly, and then comes at night I try to develop that idea that I have. So really, writing is like the second life that I have each day. Let's see, well, if the Hemisphere leaves all my readers both haunted and hopeful, then I think I've done my job. Yes, music has always been part of my creative world. When I used to live in Brazil, it's funny because I used to play in rock and metal bands, and now live in the US, I play in Brazilian bands. So funny how life flows, right? I also like to have playlists according to the books that I'm writing, that kind of reflects and gives me a mood, and builds an environment for me to help me write. And sometimes I even write songs for the characters and for the books itself. So I think that music and writing for me are deeply intertwined.